What if the fairy tale didn't end with the limo ride? What if Vivian and Edward's story wasn't over, just paused? More than 3 decades after Pretty Woman stole our hearts, a brand new trailer has dropped and it teases something fans never expected: a second chance at love. But this time, it's not just about charm and chemistry. It's about time, distance, and whether true love can really survive life's changes. Let's dive into the first look at Pretty Woman 2, where the past returns and the future hangs in the balance. What if the fairy tale didn't end with the limo ride? What if Vivian and Edward's story wasn't over, just paused? More than 3 decades after Pretty Woman stole our hearts, a brand new trailer has dropped and it teases something fans never expected: a second chance at love. But this time, it's not just about charm and chemistry. It's about time, distance, and whether true love can really survive life's changes. Let's dive into the first look at Pretty Woman 2, where the past returns and the future hangs in the balance. Back in 1990, no one expected a film about a rich businessman and a street-smart woman to become a worldwide phenomenon. But Pretty Woman did just that. It wasn't just about glitz, romance, or fashion. It was about hope. Vivian, a woman who had lived most of her life on the edge of society, found someone who didn't just look at her, but truly saw her. And Edward, a powerful, closed-off man, learned to open up and fight for something real. Their love story was messy, funny, and completely unexpected, but in the end, it worked. The final scene showed Edward climbing her fire escape like a knight, with flowers in hand, promising the fairy tale. For decades, fans held onto that image. But deep down, many wondered what happened after that. The new trailer wastes no time answering that question. It opens not with a kiss or a romantic dinner, but with silence. Edward is seen sitting alone in a high-rise office, older, with gray at his temples. His world looks exactly the same: expensive, polished, but his eyes tell a different story. He looks lost, like someone carrying the weight of an old decision. Then the trailer cuts to Vivian, but she's no longer that bright-eyed dreamer in a red dress. She's mature now, stylish, confident, and walking into a boardroom like she owns it. Her posture says power, but there's something behind her eyes, maybe something still unresolved. The music swells, and for just a second, the screen shows the two of them crossing paths. No words, just one moment. And suddenly, the audience knows the story is not over. The trailer doesn't give much away, but it's just enough to spark a flood of questions. Did Edward and Vivian stay together after that iconic night? Did their different worlds pull them apart? Or did life, as it often does, get in the way of even the strongest promises? The only clue comes from a voiceover. Some love stories don't end, they just wait. This single line changes everything. It doesn't confirm a breakup. It doesn't confirm a lasting romance. Instead, it teases that their journey paused, that something unfinished still lingers between them. And in that space between what was and what might be, the sequel finds its power. One quick flashback in the trailer shows Vivian smiling at Edward from the past. The image fades, and we're back to the present, where they look at each other not with longing, but with questions, and maybe even regret. This is not a teenage love story anymore. It's about adults who have lived, lost, and maybe loved other people but never fully moved on. The trailer's visuals mix old with new. The same Hollywood streets, the same penthouse buildings, but the lighting is darker, softer. It's clear this sequel isn't about recreating the magic, it's about facing what that magic turned into. It's about two people asking if love is still there, or if it was only meant for a moment. As fans watch the trailer unfold, emotions pour in. Nostalgia is strong, but so is curiosity. Vivian is no longer a woman waiting to be rescued, and Edward doesn't look like a man with all the answers anymore. That dynamic has shifted. The question isn't will he choose her? It's will they choose each other again? The trailer ends its first half with a powerful shot. Vivian stands at a street corner, looking up at a building. A reflection in the glass shows Edward watching her from inside. Neither moves. And then, black screen. The title appears, Pretty Woman 2, followed by, A Second Chance Doesn't Come Easy. With that, the trailer sets the tone not for a fantasy, but for something deeper. A real love story. A grown-up story. One that asks, not how love starts, but how it survives. It's not the fire escape that defines them now, it's everything that came after. In the Pretty Woman 2 trailer, we don't jump straight into romance. Instead, we step into their separate lives built over decades of change, silence, and missed moments. Edward Lewis is still a man of influence. His suits are sharper, his office higher, and his empire larger. But for the first time, he looks small in his own world. The camera lingers on him as he stares out over Los Angeles, not with pride, but with hesitation. He's not surrounded by people anymore. He's surrounded by echoes. Power doesn't feel powerful when there's no one to share it with. Cut to Vivian. She's not the same woman he left behind, or maybe she left him. The trailer doesn't say. All we know is she's carved out a life on her own terms. In one scene, we see her walking through a sleek art gallery, confident, poised, and dressed in modern elegance. She's built something. Maybe it's a career, maybe it's a family, but it's hers. And it wasn't handed to her by any man. She earned it. There's a line she whispers in a quiet moment, one that stings with history. I stopped waiting a long time ago. This isn't a reunion driven by fate. It's one driven by choice and pain. In a world where people come and go easily, Vivian and Edward stayed silent for years. No calls, no letters, nothing. The trailer teases a moment where Vivian receives an invitation. No sender, just a location. The camera follows her as she holds the envelope, torn between curiosity and self-protection. She doesn't smile. She doesn't cry. She just stands there, frozen by a name she hasn't said in decades. At the same time, Edward is shown rehearsing something in a mirror. His voice cracks when he tries to say her name. Vivian. He stops, takes a breath, tries again. This isn't the slick businessman from 1990. This is a man chasing something he never dared admit he lost. And the trailer makes one thing clear. He's not sure she'll listen. When the two finally appear in the same frame, it's not romantic, it's loaded. A dinner table, candlelight, but no soft music. Just silence and eyes full of questions. She doesn't reach for his hand. He doesn't lean in. Instead, there's distance between them. Not just across the table, but in everything they say. The trailer cuts in a line from Edward. You're different, Vivian answers, almost, with a laugh. So are you. But I don't know if that's a good thing. That single exchange flips the tone of the story. This isn't just a second chapter, it's a confrontation. The trailer hints that Edward is trying to right a wrong, while Vivian is protecting what she's built without him. He wants to rekindle what they had. She's not sure it ever really existed the way he remembers it. Clips flash quickly. Vivian walking out of the restaurant. Edward chasing after her. A tear falling. Not during a goodbye, but during a memory. A younger version of her, laughing on the hotel piano, flashes for a second, and then we're back to 2025. A woman who has lived through heartbreak and turned it into strength. The trailer never tells us if they reunite. And that's the brilliance of it. It doesn't ask, will they get back together? It asks, is it still possible? It explores what happens when love isn't about fairy tales, but forgiveness. Not about sweeping gestures, but real apologies. Not about falling for each other, but choosing each other again, with all the scars, the years, and the truths laid bare. Vivian and Edward are no longer the people we met in the 90s. They've lived lifetimes apart. But the trailer leaves us with a final image: Vivian in an elevator, doors closing slowly, Edward watching from across the lobby, unsure if this is goodbye or the beginning of something new. And then, as the screen fades to black, a line appears. It isn't the soft glow of candlelight or the swell of violins that marks their reunion, it's the tension in their eyes. Pretty Woman 2 doesn't pretend that time stood still. It shows what time does best. It changes everything. And now, the biggest question isn't do they still love each other, but can they survive what love left behind? The trailer shifts tone in its second half, diving into emotional depth. Edward and Vivian are face to face again, but the years haven't made them easier. They've made them honest. In a quiet scene teased mid-trailer, Edward leans in slightly across the table and says, I thought about you more than you know. Vivian doesn't smile. She simply replies, "And yet, you never called." Her voice is steady, but her eyes speak of everything she carried alone. That's the core of the sequel. Love, not in its first bloom, but in its hardest test when life, pride, mistakes, and silence have piled up like walls between two people who once saved each other. The trailer hints that Edward wants redemption, not romance. He's not chasing passion, he's chasing peace. But peace isn't always what the other person wants. Vivian, in this new chapter, is no longer waiting to be chosen. She's already chosen herself. She built a new identity, maybe even a new love. One quick clip shows her standing at a beachside cafe, holding hands with a younger woman, her daughter, a friend, a partner. The trailer doesn't confirm, but it sends a message. Vivian's world moved forward. Whether Edward fits into that anymore is unclear. There's another voiceover from Edward, soft and filled with regret. "I had everything, except the one thing that ever made it feel like it mattered." These are not lines from a man trying to win someone back with charm. They're the words of a man who knows he might be too late. Throughout the trailer, tension builds between hope and history. There's a brief scene in a hospital waiting room, Vivian pacing, Edward sitting silently nearby. The tone is heavy. Could someone close to them be sick? Could they be facing something that forces them to be in the same room again, whether they like it or not? Even more questions arise when another man is introduced. He appears only for a second, but his body language says everything: protective, familiar, and not pleased to see Edward. Could he be Vivian's current partner? Or someone who stood by her while Edward disappeared? Either way, Edward's re-entry into Vivian's life doesn't just stir emotions, it threatens the stability she fought to create. Then comes one of the most dramatic lines in the trailer. Vivian, standing under a street lamp at night, looks Edward straight in the eyes and says, "You want a second chance. But what if the first one already broke me?" It's not just heartbreak, it's an open wound. The trailer doesn't romanticize it. It sits with it. It lets us feel the weight of words unspoken for years. But just as the mood deepens, the trailer offers a flicker of light. In one frame, Edward is seen helping an elderly woman cross the street, small, human, gentle. A far cry from the cold businessman we once knew. In another, Vivian is laughing, unguarded, as she dances in the rain with a child, joyful, free, real. These moments remind us people can change. And sometimes wounds aren't the end, they're the beginning of something honest. Toward the end of the trailer, the music slows. A piano version of It Must Have Been Love plays in the background, familiar, but stripped down, raw. Edward is shown walking away from a door. Vivian watches him go, but doesn't follow. Then, she slowly steps forward, hesitates, and knocks once. The screen fades to black. This isn't just about Vivian and Edward anymore, it's about all of us. The Pretty Woman 2 trailer doesn't aim to recreate the charm of the 1990 classic. It transforms it. It dares to ask a new kind of question. What happens when the fairy tale ages? Can the magic survive the mess of real life, real choices, and real time? In a world now filled with quick love, broken promises, and digital romance, this story returns with a truth many films avoid: love doesn't stay perfect. It evolves, and sometimes it disappears. But what if it comes back? The final portion of the trailer is a masterclass in emotional contrast. It opens with a young woman, perhaps Vivian's daughter, watching old footage on a projector. A flickering video of a red dress, a hotel piano, and a kiss that once felt like forever. The girl turns to Vivian off-screen and says quietly, "You looked happy." Vivian pauses before answering, "I was." But happiness is easier to find than peace. That single line captures the essence of the sequel. It's not trying to give us fireworks. It's trying to give us honesty. We see Edward struggling with aging, loneliness, and legacy. In one powerful moment, he's speaking at a charity gala, polished, articulate, admired, but as the applause fades, the camera cuts to him alone in a hallway, staring at a picture of Vivian tucked inside his wallet. We also see Vivian holding a letter, Edward's handwriting. Her fingers tremble, but she doesn't cry. This is a woman who has felt every kind of heartbreak, but still stands tall. She is not a victim of lost love. She's a survivor of it. The trailer then shifts focus to a new generation. Younger characters begin to appear, some skeptical of Edward, some curious about Vivian's past. Their presence creates a bridge. Pretty Woman 2 isn't just for those who saw the first film in theaters. It's for everyone who's ever believed in second chances, and also for those who stopped believing, only to hope again. A brief but powerful clip shows Edward sitting in a coffee shop across from a teenage girl who asks bluntly, "So you're the one who broke her heart?" Edward doesn't flinch. He simply nods. That moment is raw and it reveals something important. This story is no longer about proving love. It's about owning your role in someone's pain and still showing up with humility. Another standout moment. Vivian, standing on stage, delivering a speech at an event celebrating women entrepreneurs. She says, "We are not defined by where we started, but by where we chose to go when no one believed we could." It's the full circle moment fans didn't know they needed. From the woman who was once laughed at for her clothes and her job, to someone who now inspires others to rise beyond limits, the trailer ends not with a kiss, but with a question. Edward and Vivian are seen walking through Central Park at dusk. The leaves are falling. She says, "We can't go back, Edward." He replies, "I don't want to. I just want to know if there's still a way forward." She stops, looks at him, and the screen fades to black. Then, 3 simple words appear. "Still, pretty woman." And just like that, the audience is left breathless. Not because they saw romance fulfilled, but because they saw truth uncovered. Growth, pain, healing. The kind of emotional story that doesn't promise perfection, but promises that love, when faced with time, choice, and regret, can still mean something. This film is not a remake. It's a reckoning. And the trailer makes it clear it's going to speak to every generation that's ever wondered, can love ever truly return to where it once was and become something even deeper?